The boys laughed. They were very near the cab too. Now I closed the door quickly. "Thank you," I said to the postman. "That's all right, sir," he said. "She is a strange lady, sir, isn't she?" "She is ill, that's all," I said quickly. "We are going to the hospital. Goodbye, and thank you." The cab drove down the road to the hospital. I looked at Merrick. "That was difficult, wasn't it?" I said. At first he said nothing, but then he spoke. His voice was very strange, but I listened to him carefully, and I could understand him. "The steps were very difficult," he said, "but most things are difficult for me." "Yes," I said, "nothing is easy for you, is it?" "No," he said. He was very quiet for a minute. Then he said, "Who are you, sir?" "Who am I? Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Dr. Treves. Here, this is my card." I gave him a card with my name on. Then I thought, that was no good. This man can't read. But Merrick took the card and looked at it very carefully. Then he put it in his trousers pocket. I did not talk to him very much at the hospital. I looked at his head and arms and legs and body very carefully. Then I wrote the important things about him in a little book. A nurse helped me. Merrick looked at her sometimes, but she did not smile at him or talk to him. I think she was afraid of him. I think Merrick was afraid too, because he was very quiet. At 4 o'clock, I took him back to the shop in a cab. The next day, I looked in the shop window again, but the picture was not there. I did not see Merrick again for 2 years. Then one day the police found him. He had my card in his hand, so they brought him to the London hospital. He was very tired, hungry, and dirty, so I put him to bed in a quiet little room. But he could not stay at the hospital. He was not ill, and of course, the beds in the hospital are for ill people. We have no beds for hungry people or ugly people. I told the hospital chairman, Mr. Antonio, about Merrick. He listened carefully, and then he wrote a letter to the editor of the Times newspaper. From the Times, December 4th, 1886, a letter to the editor. "Dear Sir, I'm writing to you about a man in our hospital. He needs your help. His name is Joseph Merrick, and he is 27 years old. He is not ill, but he cannot go out of the hospital because he is very, very ugly. Nobody likes to look at him, and some people are afraid of him. We call him the Elephant Man. 2 years ago, Merrick lived in a shop near the London hospital. For 2 pence, people could see him and laugh at him. One day, Dr. Frederick Treves, a hospital doctor, saw Merrick, brought him to his hospital, and looked at him carefully. Dr. Treves could not help Merrick, but he gave him his card. Then the shopkeeper Peter took Merrick to France. A lot of people in France wanted to see him, and so after a year Merrick had 50 pounds. But then Peter took Merrick's 50 pounds, left Merrick in France, and went back to London. Merrick came back to London by himself. Everyone on the train and the ship looked at him and laughed at him. In London, the police put him in prison, but then they saw Dr. Treves' card and brought Merrick to the London hospital. "This man has no money and he cannot work. His face and body are very, very ugly. So, of course, many people are afraid of him. But he is a very interesting man. He can read and write, and he thinks a lot. He is a good, quiet man. Sometimes he makes things with his hands and gives them to the nurses because they are kind to him. He remembers his mother, and he has a picture of her. She was beautiful and kind, he says, but he never sees her now. She gave him to Peter a long time ago. Can the readers of the Times help us? This man is not ill, but he needs a home. We can give him a room at the hospital, but we need some money. Please write to me at the London Hospital. Yours faithfully, F.C. Antonio, Chairman of the London Hospital. The readers of the Times are very kind people. They gave us a lot of money. After 1 week, we had £50,000, so Merrick could live in the hospital for all his life. We could give him a home. We gave Merrick 2 rooms at the back of the hospital. One room was a bathroom, so he could have a bath every day. Soon his skin was much better, and there was no horrible smell. The second room had a bed, table, and chairs. I visited him every day and talked to him. He loved reading and talking about books. At first, he did not know many books, the Bible, and 1 or 2 newspapers. That's all. But I gave him some books of love stories, and he liked them very much. He read them again and again and talked about them often. For him, the men and women in these books were alive, like you and me. He was very happy, but sometimes it was difficult for him. At first, 1 or 2 people in the hospital laughed at Merrick because he was ugly. Sometimes they brought their friends to look at him. One day a new nurse came to the hospital and nobody told her about Merrick. She took his food to his room and opened the door. Then she saw him. She screamed, dropped the food on the floor, and ran out of the room. I was very angry with the nurse and went to see Merrick. He was not happy about it, but he was not very angry. I think he felt sorry for the girl. People don't like looking at me. I know that, Dr. Treves, he said. They usually laugh or scream. Well, I don't want nurses to laugh at you, Joseph, I said angrily. I want them to help you. Thank you, doctor, he said in his strange slow voice. But it is not important. Everyone laughs at me. I understand that. I looked at him sadly in his one good hand, his left hand. He had the little picture of his mother. He looked at the picture for a minute and then put it by a flower on the table. A tear ran out of his eye and down the skin of his enormous ugly face. Dr. Treves, he said slowly, you and the nurses are very kind, and I'm very happy here. Thank you very much. But I know I can't stay here long, and I would like to live in a lighthouse after the hospital. Please, a lighthouse or a home for blind people. I think those are the best places for me. What do you mean? I asked. Why? He did not look at me. He put the flower on the picture and looked at it carefully. Lighthouses have sea all round them, don't they? He said. Nobody could look at me in a lighthouse, so I would be happy there. And blind people can see nothing, so they couldn't see me, could they? But Joseph, I said, this is your home. You live here now. You aren't going to leave the hospital. Not today, perhaps, he said, but soon. You are a kind man, Dr. Treves, but I can't stay here very long. I have no money. I smiled. Joseph, I said, this is your home now. Don't you understand? You can stay here all your life. Very carefully, I told him about the letter to the Times and the money. I don't think he understood at first, so I told him again. He was very quiet for a minute. Then he stood up and walked up and down the room very quickly. A strange sound came from him, like laughing.